We're going to take a look at Matthew chapter 20 and try to take some lessons out of that. And so, Matthew chapter 20, starting at verse 20. It says, Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling down, asked a favor of him. What is it you want, he asked. She said, Grant that one of these two sons of mine may sit on your right and the other on your left in your kingdom. You don't know what you are asking, Jesus said to them. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, You will indeed drink from the cup, but to sit on my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father. Now when the 10 heard this, they were indignant with the two brothers. Jesus called them together and said, You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. What Jesus is calling us to is not necessarily just suffering. Suffering is a part of that. If you're going to love someone else, there's a method, a portion of suffering that will go with that. Because whoever you love is going to break your heart. They're not going to do things the way you would want it done. When I first got married, I didn't fill the dishwasher the way my wife would have wanted the dishwasher filled up. Some of our biggest fights, we just had our anniversary, so we reflected on our fights that we had in our marriage. Some people do other things, we talk about some of that. Our biggest fights were actually washing my daughter's bottles when she was a baby. And that was all 24 years ago when we were having those fights. So we still remember the emotion of all that. We just weren't doing it right. So what are some things that might irritate us, that might lead us to fight?
Right.
Somebody being rude, not even necessarily being rude, but being perceived as being rude. They don't even have to actually be rude. I have to perceive them as rude, and that's going to make relationship very difficult. Other things that might make somebody's difficult.
Maybe negativity in your environment.
Any kind of negativity in your environment is going to trigger that. Negativity breeds negativity. So that's why I encourage you all to find 5 things you're grateful for every day and share that with other people. The more gratefulness you have, the more positivity you have, the more that spreads.
That's what I was going to say. Blame.
Blaming creates a lot of things, yeah.
Guilt.
Just lack of communication or communicating wrong. A lot of times terms we use will be offensive to somebody else, even if that's not our intention, but it can be offensive. So I have to become aware of that and step back and say, okay, I know that's offensive to you, may not be to me, but when I'm with you, I'm going to not use that phrase or that terminology or whatever it is because I love you. And it's not necessarily saying you're right and I'm wrong. You're just saying because I love you, I'm not going to do that.
Just lack of empathy.
It's a lack of empathy. We just got to listen to each other and care about each other. So in this portion we got these two brothers came in. And the initial questions were all really about how the apostles responded to the brother's question, to the mother's question. What they were hearing, what they were saying is, James, John, you think you're better than us. Really, it was their mother. If you have a mother, sometimes they want the best for you, so they might push some buttons they probably shouldn't be pushing. Mothers can be very forceful sometimes. I don't know, does anybody have a forceful mother? No, you don't have to raise your hand, not on camera. You have a forceful mother, and she's like a steamroller.
That is a different story.
Gonna make things happen on your regard, regardless of who it hurts. Now, I think we should be helping each other. I just don't think we should do it at all costs. I think we should be loving each other, caring each other. I don't think we should be steamrolling and knocking people over to pull it off. There are times when that's appropriate, but most of the time it's not. So let's take a look at some things here. So it might be a life service, but what it is, it's a life of complete service to Jesus. That's really what he's calling the brothers to when he says, are you willing to drink the cup? And that's why if you hear my personal vow that I make, it's, yes, I can drink the cup. I am determined I can do it. And I have a phrase that I use, kick the cans in the pants. So I can drink that cup. And it's going to be hurtful, it's going to be painful, it's going to be challenging. Leadership is not something for the faint of heart. People look at leaders and say, oh, they get a better paycheck. Leaders have a better house. They have more control over their schedule. And some of that's true. But also I want you to understand that leadership, if you aspire to leadership of some kind, it's going to come with hurt, suffering, and pain. When I was an ordinary soldier, I started off as a private in the U.S. Army, and I only had to take care of me. I hear the direction, I do what's said, and that's fine. That's all I had to do. In my advanced training, I was in San Antonio at Fort Sam Houston, and the drill sergeant said, "Hey, Private Schaus, you're doing a fine job of taking care of yourself. We want you to take care of a squad of guys." And it wasn't even a real squad, it was only like 6 guys. And I had to make sure those guys had their uniforms on right. I had to make sure they're in the right uniform, with it all nice. I had to make sure they're at the right place, doing the right thing. Then I also had to make sure that their tasks were complete. You know, all of a sudden, it was hard. And the privilege was you got a bunk room with only 4 other guys in it versus the 20. That was the perk of getting that position. But you know, I did more push-ups for everybody else than I ever did for myself. Every time somebody had a string on their uniform, I was doing a push-up, or doing 10 push-ups for every string they had in their uniform. Man, if they didn't show up on time, every minute they were late, I was doing 10 push-ups. And then, lo and behold, if they came in the wrong uniform completely, I'm just in the front-leaning rest position, like ready to do a push-up, just standing there until the drill sergeant was tired. And sometimes they traded places so that way the next guy couldn't be tired. Leadership comes with challenge and pain and discomfort. What is it called when you step out of your comfort zone? Growth is the real word. That was the second answer. I wasn't expecting to hear that one right away. I'll come back to that. Do you realize that if you step out of your comfort zone, it's going to be uncomfortable?
Yes.
By definition, if you get out of your comfort zone, it's uncomfortable. So if you want to learn and grow, you're going to have to be uncomfortable. Now, I don't know if plants have feelings, but if plants have feelings, when they push through the dirt and the rocks, and especially my property has a lot of rocks. I live on a hill, and it's more rock than it is dirt. And so that plant's got to sometimes push through rocks to come up. That can't be comfortable. But if it doesn't push through the rock, if it quits because, oh, that rock's too heavy, that challenge is too difficult, if they quit, they don't get to come through.
Yeah.
What makes us quit?
Choices.
It's a choice to quit or not quit.
Let down.
It's the difficulty. It's too hard.
Failure.
And I failed before. I tried this before. It didn't work, so why should I try anymore? Other reasons we might quit. Low self-esteem. That one it's a constant. It comes out through everything we do. I don't believe in myself enough. And if you go to a place where they don't believe in you, I'm going to use this phrase because it's going to become, we're going to do a Substack series. It's that you were made for more.
Yes, sir.
You were made for more than the life on the streets. You were made for more than a guy or gal eating out of the dumpster. You were made for more than living in an abandoned house. You were made for more than living in an encampment. You were made for more than living on government substance. They're barely surviving sort of thing. I talked to a guy yesterday who can't pay his utilities because he doesn't get enough. And he was fine when everything was good. But he had a short season where his parents were sick, and so that cost him extra money. Now he can't afford his utility. See, that bare substance, you were made for more than all that. No doubt about that. But the apostles want to be leadership. You all are leaders of your own life. At the very least, you are leading yourself. What can you do to help lead yourself better? Hold yourself accountable. Take full responsibility for everything in your life. Yes, other people have knocked you down. Not going to deny that. Other people have made your life difficult. No doubt about it. But are they keeping you down right now? You know, if you tell me your parents messed you up, that may be very well true, but are they in this room right now? It hasn't always been true. Sometimes moms are here.
Well, they have more confidence in yourself.
But we can't blame them anymore. We're past that now.
You got to have more confidence.
We got to have some confidence so I can push through all that. We got to lead ourselves. What keeps us from leading ourselves?
Listening to other people, all that stuff yourself. And I've always said, if you just focus on your work, let people see your work, let people see you, then you will move up like I did. Hey, like you said, be a leader. Okay, I wanted a job. I knew how hard it was being a manager. That entire building had to be clean. When you walked in, you didn't see the dirt down because I had a good team. But I had to do room inspections, bed bug inspections, mold inspections. I had to do maintenance and that. But people say, oh, they want to be like Miss Yolanda. When we got in there, as far as what Miss Yolanda had to do, well, we're not gonna do this. No. Be careful. You think being a leader, being a manager is all glory, but it's hard work.
It's hard work. You gotta get other people to do some of the work.
Right, and that's tough.
And getting other people to do stuff. Anybody else have to get other people to do stuff? Even, we'll just throw out one that should be theoretically the easy part, just scheduling somebody. Anybody ever, as a manager, try to schedule people? You know, I do a lot at my job, but the number one thing that I hate doing the very most is scheduling people. If I can avoid scheduling people, I'm gonna do it all day long. But if I wanna be a leader, I gotta push through that discomfort. So Jesus responds to the brothers, hey, you wanna be leaders? Can you drink the cup? Are you really willing to do it? The brothers go, oh yeah, I could sure do it. Talk is cheap. Are you really willing to do it? The brothers don't understand. James and John have no clue. And by the way, what's their nickname? Sons of Thunder, Borangis. I don't know if that's really the way you pronounce it, but I like the way that sounds. Let's say it that way. Borangis. The Sons of Thunder. My son James, that was his name, and he was definitely loud growing up. So we always called him the Son of Thunder by himself. So we got to take on this. So leadership is hard. It's a challenge, but it's also not about power. A lot of times we think leadership's all about power, authority. What happens if that's your only source of leadership? You will fail, but you'll also get fired, and then who's your identity? Who are you? If my entire identity is wrapped up in a position and a title, what happens?
I just think the biggest skill for a leader is, and it's hard to do, you have to meet people where they're at to be able to communicate properly. Because if you can't communicate properly with somebody, you're gonna turn them off and they're not gonna get the job done.
So humility.
You're going to need humility. You're going to have to stop and listen. Somebody else had something there?
Pay it forward.
Got to pay it forward, yeah. Because so I'm a leader of the mission. I got people who work for me, but I also have a board of directors. I have to listen to that board of directors who aren't here every day. They're seeing everything from the outside, and sometimes they see things different than I see them. If I want other people below me to lead, I need to listen to those people who maybe aren't here every day. Because sometimes when you're not here every day, things are clearer. That Monday morning quarterback is a famous thing. People love to do that. Anybody watch Sunday football during football season, and you're judging that coach. You're not there in the midst of that. The coach did the best he ever could, and he probably makes mistakes. She probably makes mistakes, but we're judging them on Monday morning. But we weren't there in the midst of it. But you know what? They better be listening to that Monday quarterback, because that Monday morning quarterback may teach them something for the future. So we're going to need a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. Right now I'm reading a story about a World War II general, and he was in World War I first, and he learned lessons. He wrote out his lessons he was learning. So if you want to be a leader, I'm going to recommend you learn from that. I journal every day, and I have interaction. I say, okay, how can I learn from what I experienced and did yesterday? And that's what this general did throughout everything in his life. And he wrote up, well, this is what I learned in this battle, and this is what I learned in this in between the battle, and this is what I learned to prep for the battle. And he writes all this out right after World War I. So by World War II, he is one of the most knowledgeable strategic geniuses of the war, because he took the time to analyze what he had before. Now there's possibly natural skills, but as a leader, you better be learning from those things. When James and Jesus says, hey, James and John, are you willing to drink the cup? That's what he's talking about, is drinking the cup. I'm going to take the time to learn, to nourish myself, to prepare for the battle ahead, to whatever's going to come ahead. Because eventually, what happens to those two? Let's start with James. He's the easy one. What happens with James? Anybody know? This was actually recorded in the scripture, so we know this one for a fact. James was executed. He was the first of the apostles to be executed. He really did drink the cup. John is tortured. He's put on an island of Patmos as a prison colony. He's left over there for a while. Eventually, tradition says that he was boiled in oil. Anybody ever just burn themselves with a little bit of grease? I mean, that's painful. I almost got a motor oil. I tried to change the oil when the the car was still too hot. And I guess it wasn't much. It was just a little sprinkle, and that burned like the dickens. I'm not sure what the dickens is, but it hurts. But it hurt bad. So can you imagine being in a whole vat of oil? God preserved him, tradition says, and he kept preaching as he was doing it. God prepared him for that moment. God prepared James to be able to take his execution. He prepared John to go through whatever tortures and things he went through. And all the rejections and all the hurt and pain and suffering. Leadership's going to come with all that. And so when you're looking for leaders, that's what we're learning from this. We're interacting. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And when I read that passage, I still wonder, where in the world was Daniel at? What's he doing? Maybe he just wasn't around. I'm just going to believe that, because I don't want to believe he would just bow down to the statue. All right? So let's talk what it's like, because what we're talking about is loving and caring for people in our community. And so I'm just going to kind of bring this back into working with the homeless. So you're talking about running a shelter someday. And somebody wrote a question about how do I know to run a shelter. That might have been you. Just a suspicion. So I'll formally answer that another time. But I'm going to throw out some things to understand. Is that think of yourself as a shepherd. The shepherd is taking care of the sheep. Now, you guys aren't dumb sheep. I'm not calling you names. It's a scriptural version. We're all sheep. Jesus is the great shepherd, so there's no insult meant. But think of sheep. The shepherd has to take care of the sheep. What if the shepherd doesn't take care of the sheep? The sheep get lost. They get hurt. Bad things happen. The shepherd also doesn't get paid. There's stuff that happens. There's actually financial loss that happens for that shepherd. Maybe, unless the chief shepherd says, okay, I'll buy it for you. I'll earn it for you, which the great shepherd typically does that. So the shepherd has this. So the sheep gets caught in brambles and vines with thorns and all that. What's the price for the shepherd? He's got to get into those brambles. He's got to get in that, and he's got to pull people out of that. And those things are poking into him. He's enduring the pain because the sheep foolishly got stuck up in the brambles. Is it the shepherd's fault the sheep got into the brambles? But the shepherd loves the sheep, so they will get into the mess with them. What if the sheep get stuck in mud? You're crawling and getting them. You're getting all muddy. There's no way to help a sheep in mud without you getting muddy. You're going to have to get in and get messy with them. You're going to have to get all messed up. What if the sheep has a wolf coming around? You're going to take on that wolf. David talks about the lion and the bear. The wolf seems mild when you start comparing it to a lion and the bear. He's going to have to get involved. So I was at Philmont Scout Ranch, New Mexico. I was a Boy Scout, and we were on a cavalcade. There's a horse hike through the woods. And so we were in the woods, but every night, the week before we arrived, a Boy Scout had been mauled by a bear. So our requirement, if we were allowed to go, was to get rid of the bears. Somebody would wake all night to wake everybody up if a bear came. If a bear came near the campground, we did all these precautions, but bears don't read signs. They just show up where they want to go, and they do what the bears want to do. The first thing we were going to do when we saw a bear, we were trained to do this, is make a lot of noise. Scare the bear away. So as a shepherd, when the bear's coming, I got to scare the bear away. I got to take care of that. So I got to make a lot of noise. Who are some of the bears that may be coming after some of y'all as the sheep that I need to be scaring away?
The law.
Probably not the law.
That's funny.
Drug dealers.
Oh, yeah, drug dealers.
Drug dealers in the community.
Homeless people out there trying to drag somebody down with them.
We have people who come in and they're, for lack of a better term, they're pimps trying to recruit girls to take with them out to the encampments. Encampments have a lot of prostitution and drug dealing. We actually have them, so I have to scare them away. We also have people who are trying to hide under the table. Some of those are legit, and we're going to screen them. So I got to make sure it's a nice bear or a mean bear. But if you just meet them in the parking lot and you take off with them, I can't help you. You're getting taken by the bear. We actually had a young man who came to check in Tuesday, and one of those guys, met him in the parking lot, talked him into leaving, said, I will hire you for 2 hours for $10 an hour. So that kid just earned $20 maybe, if the guy actually paid him. I don't know this guy.
Wow.
He may not have got paid, and he still hasn't checked in. I haven't seen him since he left with him. So I got to protect. But the sheep also have to listen to the shepherd. Now, I'm not chasing them away to be mean. I'm chasing away the bears. Who else might be a danger to you all?
Yourself.
Unbeliever. Unbeliever, for sure.
An unbeliever, somebody who's not just an unbeliever, but an anti-believer.
The devil.
The devil himself is a threat. So, just so you know, I personally pray for every single guest who's been here over the past probably 7 years. And I go through a rotation. I only pray for 100 a day. So it takes a little time to get through it. But every single day I pray for 7. Some of you are on there multiple times, so you get extra. That's the way that works. I pray for all of our donors every single night. I pray for everybody who's donated in the past 5 weeks. So if they made a donation in the past 5 weeks, I'm praying for them. Because I need to keep the devil at bay. Got to keep the devil out. There's a great, I can't what the term was, but shut the door, keep out the devil. It was a great song from Jamaica or one of those island nations. And that's what I got to shut the door. But I do that by praying. By filling this place as much as I can with the Word of God. Who else? So I got to keep out the devil. So I have to do prayer, Bible reading, all those sort of things. I can't do it alone, though. I need y'all to be praying too. Keep out the enemy. Keep him out. Other people who might be a bear, a threat to the mission.
You don't do that when somebody's talking.
Yeah, people who don't know and understand. People who don't take time to get to know you. Remember, you were made for more, but what if they don't believe you were made for more? What if they believe that you're really just a child? You're too incapacitated, you can't do it. They're really a threat to you, aren't they? They're a threat. They don't want you to blossom and grow. They just want to keep you like a plant. Well, actually, let me take this. I used to have goldfish. And you know, if you have fish, if I have on a little bowl, that goldfish stays a smaller size. But it's interesting, if I put that same goldfish in a bigger pond, it grows. Sharks do that. They grow to as big as that you can let them do. But if you put them in a little bowl, they're only going to stay that size. There's people who want to keep you in a little bowl. I don't want you to be in a little bowl. Our community doesn't thrive if you're just in a little bowl. So as a shepherd, I need to help you, keep you away from those who want to keep you in those places. Again, I'm not doing it to be better than anybody else. I'm just trying to share all that. So you're going to have to get dirty. You're going to have to be involved in all that. Also, for you, knowing to run a shelter someday, you're going to be attacked by those bears yourself. Those bears out there are going to attack you. They're going to sound good. The bear seems nice, and I love looking at bears at the zoo. I enjoyed going to bears when I was at Yellowstone Park, seeing bears. When I was at Philmont, I never saw a bear, so I didn't have to really defend my place with that. So originally it was just voice chasing them away, but sometimes I'm going to have to get more forceful. They're going to be attacking. I'm going to have to get in their face and say, "Bear, you're backing down right now." Now, I'm not condoning violence. I'm not saying go burn down these agencies that want to hold you down. I'm going to clarify that. It's on video so they can hear me say that, so you can't go to court and say, "Rich told me to burn down these other agencies." That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is, you talk about the voices. If the voice is saying you are not made for more, step away from them. Put your fingers in your ears. Do like we did as kids. La, 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 la. You may have to do all that. One final thing, just to kind of finish up this chapter. Some of y'all are going to love each other in this room. I'm not talking romance. I'm just talking, hopefully, the love of Christ. You're going to look at someone else here, and you're going to love on them. And that person in this room is going to relapse. I got to tell you, there's nothing that breaks my heart more than to see the relapse. When I see that potential, I've already seen that potential come up, and now they've relapsed. They're going back to who they used to be. I know the hurt, the pain, and the struggle that's going to happen there, and you're going to experience it. Your heart will break. Sometimes you can show that emotion, sometimes you won't be able to. It'll just kind of depend on the situation. But this is the final lesson to learn all this. The shepherd is not going to give up on the sheep. As long as that sheep is alive, you're going to keep hoping. You're going to keep believing. You're going to keep trying. And you may have to let them go for a season. You may have to let that sheep wander for a little bit and feel the hurt, pain, and struggle of the world. But you're never giving up. I will never give up. I will never quit. And I encourage you not to quit on those who have relapsed and gone back. So let me pray for us and we'll call it a day. Jesus, I thank you for your word, whatever translation it comes in. I thank you for loving us and watching out for us and caring for us. Lord, I pray you would make us good leaders, first of ourselves and then of others. Help us to have ears to hear your voice, eyes to see your direction. Speak clearly to us and help us accomplish all that you call us to do. Jesus, we ask for this in your name. Amen.